Peace be with you. I usually make videos about the Quran and what God says, but I'm also a physician, so I wanted to make a video in regards to COVID and my assessment of the performance of the U.S. healthcare system, which is one of the most advanced in the world, in regards to their ability to respond to a serious pandemic or an epidemic in any meaningful fashion. So, what happened during COVID is that a potentially devastating virus, which had the potential to be on par with the Spanish flu, hit the highly globalized world and spread like wildfire, right? Once COVID hit, once we started noticing cases, there was no stopping it. We already knew that there was no stopping it, and then it spread like wildfire. But thank God, the virus turned out to be far less deadly than we initially feared. It was mainly reaping the very old and the chronically ill. It spared young people. It was a minor nuisance to young people. So we did not have any problem with the volume of young people who needed respirators or who needed assistance to breathe. Very few. Most of the victims of COVID were very old, at extreme of age, or very chronically ill, very unhealthy. If COVID acted like the 1918 Spanish flu and became a devastating virus, a virus that also affected young and the healthy, then it would be far more devastating. And you also have to understand that the world is far different than it was in 1918. Human beings are a lot more unhealthy. You can look at historical videos and you will see that that population was healthy physically. And they had a large casualty rate, far exceeding what COVID caused, except that they did not have as many old people during that time because people did not live as long, and their population was far less. So if something like that actually happened in our time, then it would be a catastrophe of apocalyptic proportions that no healthcare system could deal with. An epidemic like that in this world would collapse every single healthcare system in the entire world. So if a COVID virus would emerge again, or any other virus, and started killing in a pattern resembling the 1918 flu epidemic, killing young and the healthy, there would be no help. The system will immediately collapse, and intensive care will be very carefully rationed, and it will be given to the select fortunate ones. And in that, you're talking about people who have money. Money talks, no matter what. Money will talk even then. And respirators are going to be accidentally lost or whatever, stolen, and doctors will be managing rich people on vents where the general population will not be so lucky. And that can be achieved simply by geographic, where you send the vents, right? Because we are segregated economically in this country pretty significantly. In any case, what is the only potential saving grace in an epidemic like that? And honestly, the more I thought about it, there's only one conclusion: is a vaccine. So don't get me wrong, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and that I did not think the COVID vaccine was a success, because it was not a success because the virus followed a predictable pattern. It was a minor nuisance for the young and the healthy. But if it was, if it followed the pattern of flu of 1918, then it would be far more deadly. And at that point, if vaccine was brought to bear with the same pace as it was during the COVID pandemic, that would be astounding. And at that point, because at that point, the healthcare system would be in such a collapse, and so many young people will also be dying, that vaccine hesitancy would be almost non-existent. People will change their mind, not because they suddenly grew a brain or they were stupid before, didn't think about it before. No, because they are thinking about it and their risk assessment changed. But even in that instance, like if I had that deadly virus and I didn't die, I would still not get that vaccine, because who needs it at that point? So there are several parts of the COVID vaccine that was done so idiotically, but that does not negate the whole idea, because in all honesty, if we experience what people experienced in 1918, we are probably want to have that option. So I think a reasonable approach to vaccines, or actually a recognition that a reasonable approach to vaccines is needed, and also a recognition that the healthcare system will immediately collapse if we ever get hit with a serious pandemic. Our stress test with COVID showed the cracks in the system, and they will be very, very difficult to address. These cracks in the system don't exist because they are design flaw. It's just because they are very, very difficult to address at volume. You can only have so many people vented. You only have so much infrastructure, and more importantly, you have only so many people that know how to manage vents and complications. Managing vents is not easy by any stretch of imagination. So that is my assessment of COVID and how fragile human societies are. God can erase us just like a poof, gone. You're gone forever. So I think human beings really need to remember God and remember their life is here today, you're gone tomorrow.